Down is continue to get aerial shot of what's happening throughout Houston. Our chief meteorologist, Frank Billingsley, has been taking a tour of a number of areas starting down in Galveston. And now, Frank, I believe you're in downtown Houston?
Well, we can see downtown Houston right now. We're at Herman Park and the Medical Center, and we are heading toward downtown. We want to check some of the streets downtown, check some of the bayous, see how the flooding has done. I can tell you as we've been flying, let me update you. A lot of people have asked about communities like Santa Fe and Dickinson and Webster. There's some debris around those communities, but all in all, they're in fine shape. They're just going to have to get power back and make sure that the water's okay. We also went through a new construction area called Harbor Walk that is right there down Highway 6 a little bit. Very pricey community with its own marina. The houses did fine. The houses, there were a couple of houses right on the bay that did not do so well, but most of the houses did fine. They're new construction. They're nice and high. The marina as a whole did well, but there were about maybe half a dozen boats that were ruined, either on their side or on the road. So that's sort of an update on Harbor Walk. So you can see we have downtown in our sights. Looking down here from where my perspective is, the tree damage to this part of town looks pretty minimal. Really is sort of luck of the draw, isn't it? Some folks had trees in their house. Some had trees that fell on the road. Others had just a lot of tree limbs all over the yard that are going to have to be cleaned up. Kind of depends on exactly where you were. But we're just south of downtown right now, and looking down, seeing a pretty good-looking community down there. Just got to get that power back, get the water up, get our cable services all intact, and we'll be back to normal.
And Frank, when you talk about getting the power back, I'm curious, as you've been taking this tour, have you seen much in the way of any CenterPoint Energy trucks or any other linemen out there working on power lines, or is it difficult from your vantage point to be able to really get a good look at that?
Well, to be fair, I don't know exactly where they should be, but I have not seen more than a couple. But I don't know where they're supposed to be either. I know that they have certain sections that they're getting to first.
Frank, just from also being high above, and I know we're taking a look here at the blown out windows there in downtown, what has it looked like for you in terms of traffic out there on the roads, other than, of course, where there are the long lines for people trying to get gas and whatnot, but just traffic overall?
It's moving. There are people on the roads and moving along. Every freeway has cars on it, and a lot of them. I mean, there are no traffic jams for sure, but there's a car every 10 yards, in some cases even a little more than that. We are looking at some of those windows out there, and you can imagine, generally speaking, we had 60 to 70 mile an hour winds coming through downtown, but when you whip those winds around these buildings, you can increase that by 30%. And I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't know if we'll ever verify it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had easily 90 to 100 mile an hour winds whipping through downtown, simply because of the height, and we're looking at 30 to 40 stories above ground level, and the height as well as just the proximity to other buildings. And you get these winds ripping around here, and you're up to 100 miles an hour. Now, as Alicia came through town back in 1983, we did have 100 mile an hour winds, and we had much the same problem. A lot of that problem was gravel on the buildings, and I don't see gravel on the buildings here. So that probably was not the issue as much as just simply the wind whipping around and taking some of these windows out. Now, obviously, not all of them are out, so that's good. But we do see here and there, I would say about 60% of the buildings have some window damage, some more than others.
And Frank, when you take that into consideration, talk to us a little bit more about this, because I'm amazed as I look at some of those buildings and see and know the strength of the winds that we didn't have even more wind damage or windows blown out.
Well, again, it's the strength of the window and luck of the draw. You probably put your thumb over a hose before, and you make the water go faster because you decrease the space that the water can go through. and so that water comes flying out of there because you've decreased the space. It works the same way with the wind. If you decrease the space that it's going to go through, which is what you do with these tall buildings, it's going to go faster. And so you create that wind tunnel. And the smaller the space, the faster the winds are going to be. So where these buildings just happen to be placed next to each other, that will create, in some cases not, a greater wind flow and a higher wind speed. And so that obviously is going to be really why some have them and some don't. Why some have windows that are broken and some don't.
And it looks like we're looking at some roof damage, some shingles that blew away at this location where the workers are.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I don't know that it's, would call it shingles as much as like a roof covering. But, well, yeah, it does look like some skylight covering as well there. So that's, it's hard to tell from this perspective exactly which building that is, but it is on the west side of town. And I can also tell you that looking from up here, that, you know, the triangle building, I think everybody looks at the triangle building. It looks in good shape. That's sort of interesting to me because with all those different floors, you know, I think it's the old Bank of America building, Nations Bank building, the turquoise one, terracotta one, that doesn't seem to have any broken window issues. And I'm looking, I want to go down, take the camera down to about 12 o'clock a little bit, Steve, and just show the Wortham Center and the theater district. And yeah, there we are looking at Wortham, and you know, it looks like a little bit of maybe a little damage to one of the parapet walls at the very top, but more than anything, in real good shape. Of course, the Wortham Center, pretty well built, as you can imagine. Just looking at it, it's solid stuff. Also looking at the bayou flowing through downtown, and it's high, but it's receding. And that looks pretty good. I'd like to fly over to White Oak Bayou too in a second, take a look there and see how that's doing. Because as you know, after the heavy rains yesterday, some of the bayous had a few problems. We still have a few high waters here and there. But I've got some movement downtown as far as cars. It's looking pretty active, and you can see on the freeways yourself here that the cars are moving. So it's all about, as we've been saying, it's all about getting that power back up and getting things back to normal. And we were really lucky in a lot of respects.
Frank, we know that in terms of going into downtown, I believe it's I-10 eastbound at Smith. There's high water, so folks aren't able to access downtown from there, as well as I-45, the exit to Milan. Those are just two of the locations where we know that there's some high water. But as you move over and try to get to check out White Oak Bayou, we might be able to see what's happening with the roadway there as well.
Okay. Well, we will head that way. I'm looking at Minute Maid Park, by the way, over to my right, and it looks pretty good. No problems there. You know, Reliant had a few panels out, so they had some problems. And all around Discovery Green looks good. The Wortham, or the GRB rather, and the Hilton, Four Seasons, from what I can see, it looks okay. So mostly it was these taller, at least 20 floors up. Once you start to get about 20 floors up, that's where we ran into some of the windows out.
Right, and you mentioned too, Frank, just about the higher up you go, how much more intense the wind speed gets there with the windows. If you could just kind of break that down for people so that they realize how much faster it was going higher up.
About 30 floors up, you can increase that wind speed by 10%. So if you're at 100 miles an hour at the surface, then you're easily at 120 at 50, 60 stories up. That's not counting what I was talking about earlier, where you whip that wind in between those buildings. And then you do that, all bets are off. You can get it even a little higher.
Frank, also, just from some of the pictures that you were showing us earlier with the workers there on top of the roofs, I got the sense, at least driving in here to the station today, that it's Monday. A lot of people are saying, okay, it's been some 48 hours after the storm. It's time to get back to work, and it's really time to start tackling this problem of recovery and really trying to clean things up. I wonder if you get that same sense there, just as you've seen people doing the best they can to get things back in order.
Oh, sure. And, you know, you just get into sensory overload. All the television stations have been pretty much covering this the whole time before it happened, and of course during and after. I think people are ready to get back to work. They want to get on with their lives. They want to go back to normal, which is the way we all feel. We all want to get back to normal. It's going to take longer for some areas than others, but by and large, Houston has a debris issue, a lot of shingles, a lot of limbs, some windows out, and we got to get the infrastructure back up and running, and that's going to take time.
And Frank, also too, in terms of the debris field that we're experiencing in the Houston area, we know that it's going to be a case of a lot of tree limbs in some of these older neighborhoods where you have these hardy trees that have come down on the street, onto houses. There's going to take time to clean all that up. But from your vantage point and from what you've been seeing, you're right. I mean, it looks pretty good.
Oh, and for, every tree that fell, 10,000 did not. I mean, from up here, you can see Houston just like you're used to when you fly in to one of the airports. And you look down, you see all the beautiful trees and all of the houses and all the roofs and all the swimming pools and all the traffic. By and large, that's what you see. Now, obviously, you get into the neighborhoods a little tighter, you're going to see where the limbs have fallen and some of the trees here and there. And I can see some tree damage, certainly. So I don't want to say that there's not any, because there is. And if you have a tree in your home, then that is very tough stuff. But mostly, it's very easy to clean that kind of stuff up when you compare this to the fact that Mississippi and New Orleans 3 years later still do not even come close to where they need to be in so many neighborhoods.
And Frank, as we look here at Buffalo Bayou, it's interesting to see, and we all know that this water was up over that roadway or in some locations, but back in its banks. So it's looking pretty good along Buffalo Bayou there.
Yeah, it is, and I want to fly right along Allen Parkway, straight ahead of me. And you can see the AIG building there to the left, and we're going to see how these roads underneath that were underwater, they're all dry. It looks like. So no problems. We were talking earlier about that north wind. That sent everything back down to the bay, and it looks like if you look right below us, there is a water issue right on Allen Parkway. So that is still a problem right there at...
that would be Studemont and Montrose, I believe, is the location. Yeah,
yes, sir. That's
it goes
exactly
under.
it.
Yeah,
that hasn't gotten any better. So, and if you see Buffalo Bayou, right next to it is Bank Bull. So it's got to get a little lower before we see that go down.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's the area you're talking about on Allen Parkway. Quite a bit of water there, as we can see.
Still impassable at that point, too. Frank, it was interesting when you just made note that if you were flying into one of the airports and if you flew over the city, you probably wouldn't tell or couldn't tell that anything really happened from that high up.
Right.
I'm sure if you flew over at nighttime and you saw just how dark and peaceful and without power the city is still, then we could see a different picture. Then you'd know something was up, huh?
Right. And we're going to have to make that clear to the president. I understand he's going to be in the area tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll probably take an aerial tour, and an aerial tour doesn't quite tell you what we're going through, a lot of people. So he needs to get on the ground, or at least see some ground shots and really be debriefed about all the power outages and all the water issues and all the cable issues, and especially down toward Bolivar and Galveston. Bolivar, the aerial will tell you exactly what they're going through. It may not say as much on the west end.
No question. And as you continue this, it looks like you're closer to Memorial Drive, heading out towards... I believe that's Memorial Drive.
Yeah, that's Memorial, you're right.
Yeah.
We've got the Shepherd crossover just ahead of us.
Right. Now I see it there.
But you can see the tree damage. I mean, there is obviously the taller trees have a lot of broken limbs and branches.
Yeah, and this is flying over that. It looks like we're right on the outer edges of River Oaks right now. That neighborhood with many older trees and many big houses in that area.
Yeah, I can see the golf course over to the left, and it looks like the older the tree, obviously, it's going to be a nice big canopy and a lot more vulnerable. And our oak trees are really vulnerable because they have a very shallow root system. And when you put a lot of rain in there, and then you put a 60-mile-an-hour wind in there, it's going to topple a lot of them over. They just don't have very strong roots. They only grow about 18 inches down into the ground. They grow wide, and that could be a problem when they buckle a sidewalk, but they don't grow very deep. Same problem with sycamores and pecan trees. And then the issue with pine trees is that they snap really easily. And so that's going to be a problem up toward the woodlands and the cypress and the piney woods area.
Frank, you had mentioned too about just the importance of being able to give the president a really good glance, a really good look at what people are having to deal with, because sometimes the aerial view doesn't really provide that. Here on the wires, it just came out that President Bush says that Hurricane Ike has put a, quote, pinch on the nation's energy supply. So of course, we're getting a bit of a response here from the president, but of course, we're expecting quite more once he does get on the ground and really see everything. I know we're expecting him to be here in Texas on Tuesday, so tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
well,
go ahead, Frank. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to reiterate that, yeah, he needs to do more than just see the aerials, because the aerials, well, we can see a tree right down there. That would be right off Shepherd and probably Pelham, maybe.
No, West Gray.
Is that West Gray?
West Gray, yeah. You're near West Gray. By the, I think I saw the Kroger's a moment. Yeah. Well, no, that's Shepherd right there. That roadway
and
there
then
is
one
Shepherd.
of the off streets that goes into River Oaks.
That's the
There's
intersection of Shepherd and West Gray. Of course, there's that construction going on with a new shopping center at the River Oaks Shopping Center.
That's actually, well, what I'm looking at is one street up from West Gray.
Oh, okay.
But I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Okay.
We're right above that right now, and I can see looks like a little roof damage to the one of the houses right there on the corner of West Gray and Shepherd.
Mm-hmm. And Frank, as you're over this area, one of the things that I'm curious about, and we'll probably make that way if you're heading over to Memorial Park, right on the edge, we saw what happened with the high-rise downtown, the high-rise office buildings, but of course, you know, we have some high-rise dwellings, the Bayou Bend, you know, those units. I wonder how that building fared, as well as some of the other high-rise apartment buildings that we have in town. We haven't gotten many reports of damage to them, but you know, certainly this aerial view will let us know and give us a look at what's happening.
Below us, this is Lazy Lane, which of course are the most expensive homes in River Oaks, which just about makes them the most expensive in our area, period, and a lot of trees down there. You can see some tree damage off to my left, Steve. It's a little heavier here in the River Oaks area, but it's pretty obvious. Lots of trees down. One right there in the back of a swimming pool.
That shot right there too really does show just how shallow the roots are for those trees, because you see that they just lifted right up and didn't really take much earth with it.
Yeah, they grow very shallow, but they grow quickly, and that's you know, a lot of times what you want when you put a new house in, you want instant foliage, and so you put trees in that grow fast, and a lot of times the root system is not that strong. Palm trees, on the other hand, they're very strong. The palm tree roots go way down, and that's why you still see all those standing, for the most part. Back to your question about high-rises, Jerome, that are outside the downtown area, I think that speaks absolutely to the way the winds whip through the buildings and create that effect, like I was talking about when you put your thumb over a water hose and the water just comes out that much faster. If you decrease that space where the wind is flowing, that is what is going to create a stronger, higher wind. And of course, when you get the stronger the wind, the faster the wind, the lower the pressure. And that can also cause windows to pop out. So you lower that pressure, the windows pop. And faster the wind, the lower the pressure. That's how an airplane gets off the ground. You get that airplane going really, really fast, and then the higher pressure underneath the airplane wings lifts the plane because the pressure over the wing is lower. And that's called the Bernoulli effect. And that's how you get the airplane up. So the faster the wind, the lower the pressure, the more likely a window is likely to pop out of a downtown building.
Yeah. You know, Frank, as we look at these pictures, I'd be very curious, if you can, once you make it over to the eastern part of the downtown area, to see, you know, what's happened over there. Certainly we know about the communities to the southeast in the Bay and so forth. But certainly the folks living on the east side, lower east side of Harris County, I know Commissioner Sylvia Garcia very concerned about what has happened to some of those communities.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll go to the east side right now, and I'm hoping to go right down I-10 east to Baytown and Anahuac and over toward the High Island area.
Right.
Because I know there hasn't been a lot of media coverage, certainly not from the air over there. And people have been emailing me like crazy. Can you tell me what's happened to Winnie, Anahuac, High Island? And I know I can tell you right now, High Island is probably going to have a pretty tough go of it because what we saw in Bolivar is indicative that the storm surge was a lot higher on Bolivar than it was on the west end. And I suspect it was even higher, if not as high, at High Island. And they got hit last year by Umberto and had a lot of wind damage there. And now I think we're probably going to find a lot of storm surge damage, so I want to head that way as well. Right now we're still on the west side of downtown, and we're going to head over to the east side. Do you have any particular place you'd like us to go? Just let me know.
Well, yeah, we're going to, there are a number of communities over there. We know about, all those little communities around the ship channel, the port area. But you're right. I mean, all those areas you mentioned are areas that we haven't been able to get as much information about, and very well could be some hard-hit areas from what we know about the storm. And you know better than any of us about the direction of the storm, the direction of the winds, and areas where we could have some problems. So
we had been forecasting a 20 to 25 foot surge in the Anahuac area because of Lake Anahuac and Trinity Bay, and that is a very concave, shallow area, and I suspect that they got hit pretty hard. We're going to try to get down there and find out for sure. We're on the north side of downtown right now. We're looking down. You see some big shingle damage, a little roof damage to a building right below us. Not looking at too much wind damage. You can, in terms of trees, a few trees down, you can almost wonder if on the north side of downtown, the buildings from downtown didn't protect this area a little bit.
Good point. Yeah, you have to wonder about that. I hadn't thought about that, but certainly that could very well be the case.
Working as a barrier in a sense to protect those areas there north of downtown. That's an interesting point.
All right, well, as you travel and we continue to keep that shot up, Frank, we want to pass along some of the information that we're getting into the newsroom that we can talk a little bit about the governor. We're expecting, we may be having a news conference from the governor soon. We're waiting to find out word on that. But he's, of course, expressing hopes that FEMA treats Texas, and he mentioned this yesterday, better in response to Hurricane Ike than the last time a big hurricane hit the state. A lot of people concerned about the federal response and what's going to be happening. And Governor Perry previously criticized FEMA's response after Hurricane Rita, which, of course, struck Texas in the days immediately following Katrina in 2005. Well, we know much has changed since then, and much of the nation's attention was focused on New Orleans back then. But Governor Perry, he made his remarks after taking an aerial tour of Galveston. Of course, there's going to be a lot of pressure by our congressmen, our state leaders on the federal government to bring the relief in and have us get back to normal as quickly as possible.
We're on the east side here, Jerome, just off I-10. A lot of tree damage over here, a lot of tree damage. Downtown was on the west side of the I, and some of the strongest winds of the I came right over the east side of downtown. And so we are seeing a lot of shingle damage, a lot of tree damage. Not surprising, as you said, Councilwoman Garcia concerned about this area. Billboard damage. We're circling for that reason to try to show you some of what we got over here on the east side of downtown.
Okay,
we're just south of I-10, east side. Big trees down. Number of telephone poles look like they're sideways.
And I'm glad you were able to get up into this area because this is one of those areas we were concerned and wondering what it looked like. Much of media attention has been focused down in the Bay Area in the coastal communities, but we knew that there was going to be some problems here.
I want to point out at 9 o'clock on 10 o'clock from the helicopter, Steve, you can see the railroad tracks, and there is a billboard that is smack dab in the middle of the railroad track. See that right there?
Trying to find it, huh? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
So somebody needs to know about that, which, you know, I don't know what the word is. I haven't seen any railroad trains. Have you? I live near the railroad tracks over near Afton Oaks, and I haven't seen any trains. I don't know if trains are moving into this area or not. I can see they're there,
yeah,
but I don't know if they're moving. But they can't move through that, so they need to know about that. That's right at I-10 where the trestle crosses I-10 here on the east side.
That's a good point. Some of those railroad tracks over there, they don't use anymore, so I don't know if that's one or not. We'll certainly have to find that out, but once again, we're seeing
quite a bit of roof damage and trees uprooted and blocking roads and knocked over fences. And this right here looks like it was a brick structure, and the wood roofing was just punctured a hole right through there.
A little to the east of that, you'll see a lot of trees down. Neighbors are out there cleaning up, and they've got a big cleanup to do too. Look at that. They're right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, this
a lot of trees down on the east side. The east side needs to be taken care of.
Looks like people there are doing the best they can to try to break that down and move it out of the way there with their own chainsaws.
Yep.
All right,
that's what it's going to take. A lot of self-reliance.